Hello everyone, how are you doing today? My name is Brandon and I'll be going over AirWatch this afternoon. Just going to give people a few more minutes to come in just in case there's some stragglers, maybe start in about 1 or 2 minutes, and then I won't wait much longer than that because it's all being recorded anyway. So. All right, so I'm just going to go ahead and jump right in. Once again, thank you very much for joining me here today, this afternoon for the AirWatch webinar. We're trying to do this thing so that we can help familiarize schools with AirWatch. As we know, it is a little bit much to soak in, so I hope to try to cover everything within a reasonable time frame this afternoon. So with that, welcome. If you haven't already seen the little graphic in the middle there, if you can just kindly state your name in the chat and what school you're from, that'll help us as far as attendance goes. And if you have any questions during the chat, we'll be able to quickly see your environment or anything to that effect. So welcome. My name is Brandon, and with me I have my colleague Felipe, who is not hooked up to the microphone, but he is fielding the chat room for any questions. So before we begin, I just want to let you know this webinar is recorded and will be available at the end of the webinar using the same YouTube link that you're actually watching it right now. So once it's done and over with, the same link you're using, you can actually go back and watch it. There is also about a 10-second delay between the time I say something and the time you actually hear it on your end. So if you ask a question in the chat that I feel like I should be addressing, I probably won't see it till 10 seconds later, so just keep that in mind if you think I'm not ignoring you or anything like that. Also, do feel free to ask questions in the chat. If it's like a super easy question, Felipe will try to fire off the answer in the chat. If it's more difficult, what he's going to do is he's going to take that question away, and we're going to save that for the end of the webinar. Ms. Kelly Callahan, yes, if you want, you can sign into the AirWatch web console if you're not if you're familiar with how to do that. I do kind of go over just how to sign in because there's a little bit of confusion with that whole TDSB / thing, which you'll see shortly. But yeah, if you want to sign into the AirWatch web console, please, by all means, it'll kind of help you follow along. And with that, I just want to quickly go over some little details regarding YouTube and how to set the stream up so it all kind of fits well for you. There is a quality setting in the bottom right hand corner. So if you hover your mouse over the video, you'll see there's a little gear icon. If you click the gear, you'll see quality will appear, and you can adjust that from auto. It'll try to automatically adjust to the speed of your network. But if you want a higher quality, you can go up to 1080p or 720p, or if you find that the network's a little bit too slow and the video's not playing well, you can probably go down to something lower like 480p or 360p. So just keep that control in mind. There is also a live button next to the volume control. If it is not red, it means that it has kind of fallen behind. It's not the quote-unquote livest possible. So if you see that that red button isn't lit up, you can actually click live and it'll take you to where we're at right now, or as live as possible, but still a 10-second delay. So just some prerequisites. We're hoping that by this time, if you have gotten the invite for the webinar and our whole process flow worked out well, that you should already have access to AirWatch, which is usually granted by your principal through LAS. We work to reach out to your principals and get you guys added before you get invited to the webinar. So I'm hoping you should all have access. We're also hoping that you guys have at least one device enrolled. I actually have a document camera here, so I'm just going to quickly show how to enroll a device. I'm not going to spend too much time on it because I have a feeling that you guys might already be familiar with that. But just in case you're not, I'm just going to quickly show how to get that device showing up in AirWatch. There are links in the video description for different resources. The first one being the ServiceIT link, I believe. And that's sort of like our, ServiceIT MDM. That's our MDM page. It's got everything regarding AirWatch, all of our documentation. Admittedly, out of date. We are working to get that. It starts here with the webinar, though. There's the AirWatch Login link, and also there's a link to the app request form. So you can click those if I want to follow along. So AirWatch, what is it? As you guys are all probably familiar by now, AirWatch is a mobile device management system / enterprise mobility management system. The terms are interchangeable. It does not matter. The idea is that all of our iPads are communicating with this central brain called AirWatch. So we push out apps from AirWatch. We send out controls and policies to the devices. They're all communicating with AirWatch. Some benefits to using AirWatch is that there's actually automatic TDSB wireless network access to WLAN TDSB 01. The idea here is that now no longer do you have to go to TDSB Wi-Fi and type in your employee number and password and then join the Wi-Fi, and then when your password expires you have to then go back and change it. So with the AirWatch iPads, they do automatically connect to WLAN TDSB 01. There's easy app installation for multiple iPads, so you don't have to go to each individual iPad, go to the App Store, find the app that you want, download it, type in your Apple ID. None of that anymore. Basically, we push out all the apps from the AirWatch web console. And all the configurations and app deployments are all done wirelessly, so you don't have to plug them in any computers or anything like that. There's also a consistent experience between the iPads, so you'll notice that if it is an AirWatch that they'll have a blue background, and at the lock screen they'll have the TDSB logo. So there's that. There's also some built-in security policies preventing students from adding and removing apps, also applying passcodes, which effectively locks out the device. I'm going to go over that shortly, but the idea here is that prior to AirWatch, the iPads, if you gave it to a student, they had full access to do whatever they want, so they can go into settings and then put like a passcode on it, and if they don't tell the teacher what the passcode is, well, that iPad needs to be wiped. Same thing with downloading apps. The App Store was open, so students could go in to the App Store and search up any app that they wanted and download it, which, who knows what they can download from the App Store. And of course, also there's a school level inventory of your iPads, so you get a nice little list of all your iPads, the model number, what version are they on, etc., etc. So it kind of gives you an inventory level. Who can log in? Principals by default can log into the AirWatch console, and then of course AirWatch administrators, which have been added by the principal through LAS. Again, you should all probably be added to LAS by this moment. Sorry, I'm just looking at the chat. For some reason I have no sound. Can you guys hear me okay? Yeah. Oh, it's fine? Okay. All right, thank you. Looks like it's something on your end, Tina. I apologize. And just so you know, after your principal has added you into the AirWatch group in LAS, which we of course can assist you with, it could take up to 12 to 24 hours from that point for you to have access to the console. So there's like a nightly synchronization that gives you access, but you should all probably have access by now. So this demo is going to cover the iPad new look and feel. Actually, I didn't add the point in there, but it's actually also going to cover, I'm going to do a quick enrollment demonstration. We're going to do navigating the AirWatch console, and how to organize our iPads into what the product calls smart groups. And then of course we're going to be adding and removing apps and web clips from the iPad. So I just want to quickly show you some new changes on the iPad. So if you have an iPad that is an AirWatch, the first way you can tell is the presence of these two particular apps. You'll see one is Agent and one is Catalog. Logging into, what is the username? I'm going to go over that in just a second, Jennifer, how to log in. But for now, just with the AirWatch device side of things, I'm just going to quickly pull this up on my screen here. I have an iPad here, and as I said, there are two apps that kind of signify that it's in the AirWatch console. It's this Agent app here and this Catalog. These two come with AirWatch. All your AirWatch iPads should have these two on them. Why isn't that moving? Oh, sorry, it's not shaking. There we go. So the Agent and the Catalog. You'll also notice that by default, this AirWatch iPad does not have the App Store, which is like, well, how do I push apps out? Well, we're going to use AirWatch to push out these apps. So, but by default, when you're looking at it, you cannot actually launch the App Store. It's not a clickable thing. And also, as I said, this was to prevent students from downloading apps from the App Store, as well as there's some settings that are turned off. So before there was an option here in settings where you could basically put a passcode on, and that setting is actually gone. It's no longer here on the left-hand side. So this iPad right now, we'll call it as being in student mode, in that it is very locked down. There's not a lot that can be done. They can launch the apps that are already there. They can't put any passcodes on the device, and they cannot install apps. If you wish to unlock the iPad and unlock all these features, so say you want to actually download something from the App Store, maybe you're testing an app, or maybe you've decided you want to put a passcode on this one particular iPad, we can actually unlock all the features that are currently locked down on the iPad simply by logging into this agent app. So this little blue shield icon here, that is the agent app. If you tap that, what you should see is that a notification. I'm just going to click allow. You'll see that it'll ask you for a username and password. Any TDSB staff member can type in their employee number and password on this screen here, and what it'll do is it will unlock all the features of the iPad. I'm just going to quickly switch away here, because if I type my password, it'll show up on the webinar. Bear with me 1 second. There we go. Okay, so I'm just typing in my password. Ignore everything. 1, 2. Okay. All right. Oh, that was on there. Ah. My bad. Okay. Well, I'm going to have to change my password. Hopefully nobody pauses and goes back. I'm going to reset my password right after this. But basically, if you look here, I've typed in my employee number and password. And if I click login, what'll happen is all those features that are locked down, such as the App Store, such as the passcode settings, those all will become available. So once I've logged in the agent app, what I'll see here is just sort of some device information, and what it'll do is, so now I'm logged in, and I can tell that because I see the logout button. If I press the home button, Mr. Chan, please do not log in with my account. I need this job. So now that I've logged into the agent app, the App Store is now available, as you can see over here on the right-hand side. And that is now available because I logged into the agent app. Also, if I go into settings, those extra settings are now available. So now I can change like the wallpaper of the iPad. I can put a passcode on the device, etc., etc. So that's sort of the idea of like checking into the iPad and checking out of the iPad. When you check in, you can basically unlock all these features, and then when you're actually ready to give it back to a student, just be cognizant that you probably want to check out, so you don't want them to, be able to tamper with the iPad. So to log out, it's just the reverse step. You launch the agent app here, and then you tap the logout button over here. And yeah. So once that logs out, there we go. So now that I've logged out, that App Store is still there. Sometimes it takes a little bit, but eventually, there it goes. See that? Just disappeared. And that's sort of the idea, is that everything kind of gets locked down, and then the settings, of course, same thing. So that is the actual device side of things. I'm going to switch back over now to my little PowerPoint. We're going to talk about logging into the web console. Actually, hold on. Let me turn this off. Okay. There we go. So logging in. To log into the AirWatch web console, you can log in from anywhere on the web, not just within the TDSB. It is a cloud-based application. There's a timeout on the agent? Oh, is that a question? Does it log up here? I believe there is a timeout. I don't know what the number is, but to be on the safe side, I would log out. I'm pretty sure there's an automatic timeout. Actually, I'm not 100% sure. So I'm gonna get back to you on that one. Yeah, thank you, Felipe. So yeah, logging into the AirWatch web console, you can log in from anywhere on the web, not just within the TDSB. It is a cloud-based application, so you can do it from home if you so wish. There's no browser limitation. It should work on Chrome, Internet Explorer, Safari, Mozilla, whatever your choice is. The most important part to actually logging into the web console that we get a lot of calls about is the username. It's supposed to be TDSB / and then your employee number. So not just your employee number and password. You have to put in that TDSB / and then your employee number. When you first log in, it will ask you to create a 4-digit PIN code on login. That 4-digit PIN code is used for certain operations within AirWatch that they don't want you to do on accident, or accidentally. On accident, why did I say that? Accidentally. Such as if you go to wipe a device, it doesn't just automatically wipe it. It'll ask you for that 4-digit PIN code just to make sure that you're 100% sure you wanted to wipe that device. The link is right here. It is https://cn239.awmdm.com. That is a mouthful. You do not have to remember that. I will show you actually that there is on the desktop of all the TDSB desktops that right here. Mine says LAS Test School, but you have a school shared folder. It's not showing. Yeah, it's showing. So you don't see my desktop? Okay. So on the desktop, you'll have your school name as your shared folder. So mine says LAS Test School. That's just what we have here. But for you guys, it'll say whatever school you're at. If you double-click that that folder, there is a link for AirWatch in there. So you can actually just double-click it from there, and what it'll do is it'll take you to AirWatch. I did double-click it, but it's showing up on my other screen here. So just bear with me 1 second. There we go. Coming in. There we go. Okay, so this is the AirWatch AirWatch web console. It's kind of already got my stuff filled in here, so that kind of takes away. Let me just remove that so I can go over that. So as I said, the username will be TDSB / and then your employee number. The TDSB does not have to be capital. You can do TDSB lowercase. You can do TDSB and then your employee number. And then your current network password. So the same one you use to log into computers or check your email, that's the same password that you use to log into the AirWatch web console. So once you type that in, again, the TDSB / part is important. You should be greeted with, actually you won't be greeted with the dashboard if this is your first time logging in, but for me, obviously I've logged in before. So I see the dashboard. But for you, what you might see is the accept terms of agreement. Yes, so it does make you create a 4-digit passcode. So you'll see the terms of agreement, just accept that, and then it'll ask you to create this 4-digit PIN code. And this 4-digit PIN code, you can reset it at any time. It's not a big deal if you forget it. It's again, the only time you will use this 4-digit PIN code is when you go to wipe a device. So if you're trying to wipe a device through the AirWatch console, it'll just make you type in this 4-digit PIN code before you do so, just to make sure that that's indeed what you wanted to do. The PIN code does not change with your password. If your password changes, so basically, I guess that's a good point. So if your password changes, yeah, you can absolutely go ahead and try this as I talk. So you can go to, if you go to your school shared desktop, school shared folder on the desktop, you will see that there is the AirWatch link in there. You can just double click to launch that. And again, TDSB / and then your employee number. And then your current network password. So obviously, if your network password changes, you will have to type in your new password because it's basically synchronized with our system. So when your password changes, the password will change on the quote-unquote AirWatch side. The 4-digit PIN code should be prompting you only if it's the first time you logged in. If you're not seeing this prompt for the 4-digit PIN code, it means you've probably logged in before. I wouldn't worry too much about it. I'll show you, I guess, at the end of the webinar how you can change that passcode or that 4-digit PIN code if you forget it. So, with that, yeah, and you're correct, Patricia. The 4-digit PIN code is not your password. It's just for that whole purpose of if you want to wipe a device, it's going to make you type in that PIN code before you wipe the device. But the default screen you see here at AirWatch is the dashboard. It's just got a higher level view of your environment. It tells you how many devices you have. I'm in a little fictitious school called Maple Grove Community School. There are 3 iPads in my AirWatch environment, and this kind of just goes over some little details regarding the environment. So like how many of them have a passcode? None of them, of course. How many of them are encrypted? I got none of them are encrypted. And you know, the last scene. The last scene basically means when was the last time it let you that device came in and actually reported into AirWatch. I am just looking at the chat now and I see somebody saying it won't let you log in. If you have typed in TDSB / and then your employee number and then your current network password, you should be able to get in. I'll have Felipe check whether she's in the proper group. If not, then That's that break in the process I was talking about, where we should have had you added in already. Does anyone else have any issues logging in? Because actually, I will say that more recently, it was posted. There was an alert posted on ServiceIT that there's actually been an issue with AirWatch logging in. Oh, it shows resolved. Okay. Yeah. So over the past week or so, there's been some intermittent issues with logging into AirWatch console, but it's showing here that it's resolved. So I don't think that's it, and it let me in fine. So I'll let Felipe take a look at your account and see if we can get to the bottom of that. But as I said, the dashboard. Sorry, I just need to get back to this. The dashboard has the different graphs, graphical overview. It'll show you, for example, like the last scene breakdown, the last time that your iPad was able to check into AirWatch. We got another person who can't log in. No one can log in. Okay, so I'm just going to backtrack here. I just want to be sure you guys, you are typing TDSB /, not forward slash, /. The / is the one above the enter key, not the one directly to the right or left of the shift key. So it's TDSB / and then your employee number, and then your current network password, and it should let you log in. I'm hoping if you've gotten this invite, you should have been added into the AirWatch group. At least, as I said, it could take 12 to 24 hours for that to take effect. So, okay, so some people are in. That's good. Anastasia's not part of the MDM. Okay, so Anastasia, it looks like you were not added into the MDM group through LAS. So, that's one. I don't know if you can check out Mr. Chan X as well. I don't know, Mr. Chan X. If you just want to let us know what your name is and the school you're at, we can have Felipe take a look. So yeah, I do need to continue though. If you can't log in, that's fine. Just feel free to watch, because this thing's going to be recorded anyways. So you can always just go back and reference this video. So that is the dashboard. Again, just shows you a high-level overview, a bunch of interactive graphs of your AirWatch environment. Don't really spend too much time on this page. I'm going to go over to devices here on the left-hand side, and I'm actually going to change from on this left-hand side where it says devices, the default is dashboard. I can go down to list view, and this is going to show me a list of all the iPads that I have in my environment. In this case, I've only enrolled 3 iPads, and I'm going to enroll a 4th one. So this is actually a good time to talk about how the enrollment works. I'm pretty sure you guys are familiar with it, but hey, why not cover it? I have a document camera set up. Let's do it. How do these iPads actually get into the AirWatch environment? Why are these iPads showing here and not another iPad? So during the AirWatch enrollment, depending on what you guys have chosen, some of the larger schools would have requested that field services come on site, round up all your iPads, and then enroll them into AirWatch. Some of the smaller schools, what we advise that they would just do a self-enrollment, and basically the idea of enrollment is you just have to wipe and restore your iPad. So when you wipe your device, all TDSB iPads are forced into AirWatch by default. So I'm actually going to toggle over to an iPad. I can't show you with the software that I was using because it's wiped, so I'm actually going to use my document camera. But here's an iPad that's actually been wiped, or you can even consider it as maybe I just bought this iPad. It's brand new. So the first time I turn it on, I have this setup screen. During this setup, this is the actual act that puts that iPad into AirWatch. So the setup doesn't take very long at all. What you'll see is you choose your language. You're going to choose your country. And then it'll ask you to choose a wireless network. In this case, most of the iPads should be in TDSB media devices, so you shouldn't have an issue with that. If TDSB media devices doesn't connect for whatever reason, you can always use TDSB Wi-Fi, but just bear in mind it will tell you to use your employee number and password. It'll say the iPad will take a few minutes to activate. Then what we're going to see is the Toronto District School Board will now automatically configure your iPad. So this means that this iPad belongs to the TDSB and it's automatically going to enroll in AirWatch. All of your new iPads that you purchase, you should see this during the first setup. Any existing iPad that you have, if you wipe it, you should see this as well. If you don't see this when you wipe it, or if you don't see this when you have a new iPad, please let us know. Call us at the help desk, and we will have to take a look, because that should automatically bring you to the screen where it says the Toronto District School Board will now automatically configure iPad. Then I'm going to click next, and what it's going to ask me is for a username and password. This is a bit of point of confusion. The username and password that it's asking for here is not your employee number and password. It is actually the 4-digit Trillium number of your school, or if you're a central department, we have provided you guys with a enrollment ID. So for example, my fictitious school that I have here is the number of the school is 9999, and the username would be 9999, and the password would be 9999. So it's this act of typing in 9999 for the username and the password that tells it that it's actually going to go over into my environment here. I'll see a brand new iPad here, appear here once I've enrolled it with that. If I punch in another school's Trillium number, say your Trillium number was 1234, if you type that in, it'll basically put it there. So what I put in here is important because that'll tell me where it goes. So if I click next, all the webinars are posted on YouTube, on our YouTube channel, and it's on the ServiceIT MDM link, and it's the same link that you're using right now. So this exact webinar, if you need to come back and watch it, the link that you're using at the top, you can come back and watch it. But the YouTube channel that we have here, they all get posted here automatically. I also, my big question and get to it at the end is that someone, if they've bought a paid app and it was approved and paid for, how do I push it out? Miss Kelly, I'm going to get to that. Unfortunately, I have to cover everything, so it could be during the halfway point. I apologize. Again, this is recorded, so if you want to come back and watch it, you don't have time to stick around and wait for that, by all means, just come back and watch it. It'll probably be about the halfway point. So the iPad is now done. It says welcome to the iPad. I'm going to hit get started, and what I should see is now, if I switch back over to my AirWatch environment, it still shows 3 devices. I'm just going to hit refresh. Actually, I'll refresh the page up here at the top. Oh, my mouse, sorry, my mouse is way off. There we go. So I'm just going to refresh this page. And there it is. So it's got this gobbledygook name, but that is that new iPad. So I went from 3 to 4. So that one that I just enrolled is now my 4th iPad. So again, in the devices in list view, it does just show you a list of all the iPads that you have. Generally speaking, when you first come in here, the iPad names will just be iPad, or in the case of mine here, some long cryptic name. We do recommend that you rename your iPads. It'll make your life a lot easier when it comes time to deploy an app. So for example, when I see all these names here as iPad, when I go to actually add an app to these different iPads or group these iPads, the names are just going to appear as iPad. So I'm not going to actually have any unique identifier to tell me that this iPad belongs to this classroom, or this iPad is labeled number 1, 2, 3, 4 for my school. So it really all depends on how your school actually manages on the physical side of the device, the labeling, or how the iPads are distributed. So for example, I have 3 iPads here, and for the sake of this demonstration, I'm going to assume that they're going to be, I'm going to call them grade 3 iPads, and I'll label them 1, 2, 3, 4. So right now I have these 3 iPads in here. I can rename the device from the device side of from AirWatch. So from here, I can actually click the edit, this little pencil icon here, and it'll give me the opportunity to rename the iPad. So I'm going to call this one iPad, we'll call this we'll call it a grade 3 iPad, and this is number 1. So you can imagine if at my school I had all these iPads, that I may have like a sticker on the back of them. One will be 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'd want to name it appropriately so that when I pick up that iPad and I'm looking at an AirWatch, it all lines up. It makes sense. Because if they're all just named iPad, that's not going to help you out. I'm also going to check this set friendly name as device name checkbox. This basically puts the name on the device, what it'll appear in settings. I can show that in a sec. This can be a little bit cumbersome to rename them from the AirWatch web console because it's really hard to tell that this iPad is indeed grade 3 iPad number 1. The easier way of doing it is you can actually rename it on the device side of things, although I did test it for my environment earlier and it wasn't working, but 99% of the time it seems to be working in the environments that I've seen. So I think it's just my test environment has been acting funny. So imagine that this is my iPad, right? And I want the name to appear in the web console here. So I have this iPad in my hand. I know, actually, hold on, I can't, Let me just It's not letting me. Always on top, that's what I want. So imagine I have the iPad here, and I want to know which iPad is it in here. If they're all named iPad, it's going to be very difficult to say this iPad is this one in the list. So obviously, if I'm physically holding it in my hand, I can look on the back and say, oh, there's a sticker on there, and this is iPad number 2. What I can do on the device, I can actually rename it from the device side of things. So I can go to Settings, and then I can go to General on the left-hand side here, and I can go to About, and oh, well, that was just coincidence. The odds of me, I guess 1 in 3. This one already got the name that I pushed out from the console, but if I wanted to change the name, I can change the name on here to iPad number 2, and then go back, and it should show there now that the name is now number 2. And again, this wasn't working in my environment. I'm seeing that someone else said it wasn't working in their environment either. I have seen it work though. I'm not going crazy. I promise you, if you change the name in there, it should indeed eventually make its way over. I will have to look into that because again, now that I refresh it, I'm pretty sure it's still going to say iPad number 1. I think if you do, I'm not going to spend too much time trying to get it to work because I'm convinced my environment is broken, and maybe yours is too, Patricia. But I know I've done this before a million times with some other schools, and we've renamed it from settings, and then you literally just come in here and hit refresh, and then the name changes on here. So, Patricia, I'm gonna take that aside, and I'm gonna have to see if there's some sort of detail that I'm missing here, and try to reproduce that for you. So I'll log a ticket for you regarding that, and I guess log a ticket for myself because the names aren't showing here. But that would be the easier way of renaming your iPads, and like I said, I'm confident it should work. I mean, not too confident, but confident enough that I've seen it before. So now that I have this iPad renamed, sort of, in that I had to do it from the console, that'll make my life a lot easier when it comes time to deploy an app. So from here, there's a bunch of other things you can do. If I actually click the iPad itself, I can come in to, this is what's known as details view. So it just shows me, instead of looking at that list, it just shows me everything about this one particular device, such as the serial number, the asset number, how much storage is on there, if there's any OS updates. So right now it's on 10.3.3. If it had an update available, I could actually deploy an update from AirWatch. So I could click this More Actions button up here to reveal some more different, more actions that I can perform on it. One of them being that iOS update. So if there was an update, I can choose to update it from here on the web console. I can wipe the device. And as I said, that 4-digit PIN code that I create, when I go to device wipe, this is where it asks me for that PIN code. It's just to make sure that I don't do that accidentally. From here, there is also, you can clear a passcode if there was a passcode on the device. And I find this query device information sort of forces AirWatch to report back new information. And that's usually what I do to force the name to appear. But again, I haven't seen it happen in my environment yet. But that is details view. Just again, it kind of shows you, you shift your focus from the list to just this one individual iPad. You can see the apps that are applied to it. Any apps that have a green check mark have made it. Some of them have not, or rather they are probably installing. So that's the device tab over here on the left-hand side. That again just lets you sort of overview your inventory of iPads. You can look at the individual iPad details. You can check the version, all the information on an individual basis of the iPad. So I'm just going to rename all my devices here. And again, to rename it, I just click this little pencil icon next to the iPad. And I'll call this one, this will be grade 3 as well. And we'll do iPad, or number 2. And then the last one, I'll set friendly name as device name. That pushes the name over to the device. And I'll do this one for this long cryptic one here. Call this grade 3. iPad number 1. For me, it doesn't matter which one I rename to which, obviously, because this is just a demonstration environment. But for you, you wouldn't want to willy-nilly name it. You probably have a label on there. I forget the naming convention. iPad number, I'll do 4. Okay, so now I have all my iPads appropriately named. Sorry, 1122. Oh, actually, hang on a sec. One of my iPads changed back to number 1. So it did eventually get that name. Just really quick, come in here. So I think this one here. Oh no, this is number 2. Okay, my apologies. Maybe I just didn't rename them properly. I'll just change this one to number 3. And I'm doing this for a very particular reason. I'm sorry if this is kind of boring, but I just want to showcase how sort of you should be doing this in your environment. So you can see that I have my iPads not only numbered, but also their purpose. So I can group. So our iPads are already numbered. How do I know which iPad is iPad number 34, for example? So if you're holding it in your hand, I'm assuming you physically labeled them. So iPad number 34 on the back of the iPad, like I'm assuming you've labeled them. That iPad, when you rename it on the device side of things, like here, like I said, settings, general, and then about. If you change the name on here, that should rename on AirWatch. So if this iPad that I'm holding in my hand right now, this one that you're looking at on the screen, if this one has a sticker on the back that said iPad number 34, let's even change this to iPad 34 because I now know. So I've renamed the iPad number 34 because I know this iPad has or is labeled number 34. If I rename it on the device side of things, like I said, what should happen is that the iPad name should then change in AirWatch here. In fact, I'll continue to monitor that for the rest of the webinar. I have a feeling it will eventually change on the list here. But that's the idea, and as you said, you were having some difficulties that you didn't see that it was working for you. And again, I do need to take that aside because I don't want to spend too much time on that. You can rename it on AirWatch as well, but if you want to rename it on the AirWatch side of things, this is where it gets a little bit confusing, is because how do I know which iPad, for example, this one is if I don't, if I'm looking here and I don't know which one this is? Well, the unfortunate part is, or I guess the unfortunate method is, you can go to Settings, General, then About, and then you can actually the serial number here, this DMQ K5GY. Unfortunately, that's really the only way. You have to take that serial number down and then put it up in here in AirWatch under the search list. I don't know if you can see my mouse in the top right hand corner. If I take that serial number and search it up here, DMQ K5GYRF183, and then I hit enter, it'll filter down that list to that iPad. So now I know the one that I have in my hand is the one that I'm looking at, and it's been filtered down here on the list. So now I could change this one to, iPad 34 from here. That's the unfortunate way, and that's why I said that the best way to do it is to rename it on the device, and that should work, but as you said, we're having some difficulties with that. But that's how you would search it by the serial number. So now that we have renamed our iPads appropriately and we have a nice little list, we'll actually be able to better manage them. So I'm going to now move on over to the groups and settings over here. I'm skipping apps and books because we're going to deploy the app after we've grouped them. So the way that AirWatch works is you bundle your iPads together into logical groups. In this case, as you can imagine, I got a bunch of grade 3 iPads. I'm going to create a grade 3 group. I'm going to put all these iPads in that grade 3 group, and then I'm going to apply apps to the grade 3 group. So I'm going to go over here now to groups and settings, and then groups, and then assignment groups over here, or you can click it there, it doesn't matter. I've kind of already created some fictitious groups here that don't really have any devices in them just to make it look nice. But as you can see, I have grade 1, 2, 4, 5, 6. So I'm missing my grade 3 group. I'm going to create that now. Actually, I do want to point out one thing. If you purchased an app prior to AirWatch, Jennifer, I'll show you where the Sync Assets button is. Actually, I'm not sure if it'll show up on my end, but the Sync Assets button, I'll show you where that is as soon as we get past this. But I just want to quickly touch on something here. If you go to your assignment groups here and you see a group there created that you did not create, and it'll have the name of the app in the title, that means that that app was purchased prior to AirWatch. And what our team has done is they've created these groups to support the apps that were purchased prior to AirWatch by basically creating a group name that is named after the app, and then they're supposed to be putting the licenses, like the count of licenses of that group in the title of the app. So in those particular cases, if you do see an app in your groups, it means that that app was purchased prior to AirWatch. And if you wish to utilize those licenses, you would add the devices to that group, which I'm going to show now by first going back to creating my smart group. So I'm going to create a new smart group called Grade 3 iPads for all my Grade 3 iPads. I'm going to click this Add Smart Group button up here at the top. When it first opens up, it's going to take me into the screen with the choose type up here at the top being set to select criteria. We do not want to use select criteria. Criteria sort of works like a variable. It tells you, it groups your iPads based on conditions, like what version it is. Is it an Android? Is it an Apple? We don't want to do that. We want to group it based on how we've named it. So we go to select devices or users. It's going to tell us, hey, you're going to lose all your changes. That's fine. We didn't do any changes, so you can just ignore that when you click over to select devices or users. And now we can start adding our devices in. First, I want to give my group a name in the top right-hand corner. I'm going to call this Grade 3 iPads. And then for devices, if I put my cursor right here in this devices, oh no, my little app that shows the iPad crashed. Okay, that's fine. I'll launch it again. Let's see. Reflector 2. Huh? There we go. Okay, so I have my Grade 3. I've named the group here at the top right-hand corner, Grade 3 iPads. That's the name of the group. That's what it's going to appear as. And then if I put my cursor here in this devices text field, it's going to give me a drop-down menu of my iPads. Now, this is why I said it was important to rename your devices. If you came here and all your iPads were named iPad, you wouldn't know which ones are your Grade 3 iPads and which ones are your Grade 2s and which ones are your Grade 1s, etc., etc. Because the same apps you want to give out to your Grade 3s may not be the same as the ones you want to give out to your Grade 1s or Grade 6 or however your school works. Could be the same thing. Maybe you have a robotics lab. You have all your robotics apps going to those robotics iPads. Maybe you have some library apps and you want to deploy it specifically for the iPads that exist in the library. So that's why you want to rename them so that it just makes it easier to group. If you do not want to rename them, the unfortunate thing is that you'll have to apply every app to every iPad, which can cause some problems in itself, in that you could run out of space on your iPads. But I've already renamed them, so I'm going to go ahead and start adding them in. I'm going to select Grade 3, iPad number 4. I click this Add button, and it moves over to the right-hand side. I can then do that for all my iPads. Grade 3 number 1. Boom. And we'll do number 2. And number 3. And I can add them over. I can also undo what I did. Let's say I don't want, maybe number 1, actually, after all, we're going to move that over to Grade 2. I can uncheck it, as you saw there, and then now it disappears from the list. And then I can save this, and now I know I have a new group right here, Grade 3 iPads. And if I scroll down over here on the right-hand side, it shows me that I got those 3 devices in there. Remember, I took one out. So now I have them grouped. Now it's time to actually push out the app to the actual groups. So on the left-hand side, we were on Groups and Settings. We're now going to switch over to Apps and Books. There is some look and feel changes here. Good time to tell you, Jennifer. As you can see, the Sync Assets button is right here. So you're probably asking about the Sync Assets button because you submitted the app request form, and they're telling you, hey, your app should appear there. You just may need to press the Sync Assets button. So if you submit the app request form and then Teaching and Learning comes back and says your apps are ready and yet you still don't see them, you want to press that Sync Assets button. It could actually refresh it. If for whatever reason you press the Sync Assets button, you still don't see the app, as the app request form says, you're going to have to email Teaching and Learning. Their email is apprequests@tdsb.on.ca. So app requests, no space, no dot, apprequests@tdsb.on.ca. So you can send them an email and ask them what the status is of that. But when we first come into this Apps and Books page, what am I doing? Okay, when we first come into this Apps and Books page, we can see that it's got a bunch of unknown apps, which isn't really helpful for us. What we need to do here, and I see a lot of people, they search the name of the app in the top right-hand corner. You don't want to search the name of the app. What you want to do is you want to search either the trillium number of your school. In this case, for my test school, it's 9999. Oops, 9999. Or you can search the name of your school. So mine's called Maple Grove, so I can do Maple Grove. And it's going to filter down basically this board-wide list of all the apps across AirWatch to the ones that I'm allowed to use, the ones that have been given to me. So if I hit enter now, what it'll do is it'll filter down this list, and now I can see that all of these apps are showing for Maple Grove. These are the apps that I can work with. These are the ones that I submitted through the app request form. That's how they got here, and these are the ones I can work with. So by default, I've already added all the Google apps to my iPads. So I'm going to actually pick a brand new app. In this case, let's say I want to deploy this Epic app. First and foremost, if this is the first time I'm actually managing this app, I actually have to check off this big blue button that appears that says Enable Device Assignment. And how I do that, and this you only have to do this once, is you click the name of the app itself, and what you'll see is this big blue button here says Enable Device Assignment. This is a very important step. You only have to do this once per app that you have. After you've submitted the app request form and you first get it, you have to push this button, because basically this button tells AirWatch that if you want to use this app, you don't need an Apple ID. So if you press it, it'll ask you, are you sure you want to enable device? You click OK, and then you'll never see the blue button again. I'm not going to do that for this app because, actually, you know what I'm going to do for this app, because I have a few other ones. So I'm going to press OK, and now that button is gone. I should never see it again. Then I can press Save and Assign, and then it'll take me to a new screen. I'm not going to press it because I just want to show you one more thing. So I'm going to click Cancel here. Now that I've pressed that big blue button, if I ever want to assign this app to iPads, how I do it now, and this is a recent change. Prior to an update, I think maybe four weeks ago, you would just click the name of the app and then assign it that way. Now you actually have to press this little checkbox next to the app, and then you're going to press this Assign button up here at the top. Unfortunately, you cannot do multiple apps at a time. You'll see the second I tap this app, the Assign button disappears. So it's a little bit cumbersome, but yeah, you do assign apps on an app-by-app basis, so one at a time. So I check off the app, I press Assign, and it's going to tell me I'm going to create a new assignment. I don't have any assignments in here now, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to click this Add Assignment button. This will take me to this screen here. This is all the same from before. Obviously, you've never used it before. It doesn't make any difference to you. It's all new to you. But when we're on this screen, this is where we actually do the magic that tells it to go to the iPads. And we hover our mouse over Add Assignment By. This little drop-down appears for license code by smart group. Oh, there we go. And if I click that, it's going to bring up this little text box here where it's telling me to select my smart group. So this is now where I choose which group do I want to deploy my iPads, this app to. In this case, once I put my cursor in here, I can see all the groups that I've created. Again, if you just want to make this easier on yourself and you want this app to appear on all iPads, you should see that in your environment there should be a group that's called the name of your school -iPads all. By default, that group will contain every single one of your iPads. So if you don't want to muck around too much with, grouping them by grade 1s, grade 2s, grade 3s, you can just use the iPads all group and push it out to all your iPads if you find that to be easier. If you want to sort of make things a little bit more clean and have it grouped, and maybe these apps belong to this grade and so on and so forth, and you group it down just like I did, then you can go ahead and select that. So I'm going to say that this Epic app is only going to be going to my grade 3 iPads. So I'm going to select that grade 3 iPad. When I come in here, it shows me that I have 3 devices in that group. I need to allocate licenses to those 3 devices. So basically, even though the app is free, there are still licenses that we need to be held accountable for. It's just sort of like a tracking of what we use. So I can see here that even with free apps, what they do is they just swing for the fence and give us 500 licenses for a free app. Your environment may have 500, may have 1,000. I do need to give this smart group at least 3 licenses because there are 3 devices in there. So I can change that 0 to a 3 or more. We actually recommend doing more. So let's say down the road I get 20 more iPads for my grade 3 iPads group. If I want to save myself the time of coming back in here and changing this allocation value, you'll want to just shoot for the moon. So in that allocated field, take the amount of devices you have and I don't know, round it up to 50. Why not? Because if you have a lot to play with, you have 500, right? So once I hit 50, oops, sorry, my apologies. Let me just go back in there. I'm going to click that and go back to edit. So I changed the license here to the allocated value to 50, and I can see that the license count over here shows that I've allocated 50, and now I have 450 licenses left for this app. If you ever run out of licenses, which you shouldn't, but if you're shooting for the moon, just go ahead and let us know, and we'll increase it for free apps at least. Paid apps, unfortunately, that number will be the amount that you paid for. So imagine if Epic costs money, and I bought 20 licenses. Instead of saying 500 here, it'll say 20, and I can only use those 20. So that's in the case for paid apps. Free apps, we just put like 500 and a bunch so that you can do something like this, where I can give this group 50, so that let's say 3 years from now I get 20 iPads for the grade 3s. I'll just put them in the grade 3 group, and I won't have to come back in here and change this allocation value. Another important detail here is the assignment type. There are 2 assignment types, auto and on-demand. If I put auto will automatically push that app out to the iPads, or attempt to, right away, depending on network conditions. So if the iPads are online and connected and talking to AirWatch, they should get the app if I choose auto. There's another option of on-demand, where it puts it in the catalog, which I'll show in just a second. But I'm going to leave this one as auto for now, because I want to show you the magic of actually pushing this Epic app out to my 3 iPads. So I'm going to click Save. I now see that I have my new assignment. It says grade 3 iPads. We're going to deliver it automatically to all my iPads. And when I hit Save and Publish, it's actually going to give me a list of all the iPads that it's going to push it to. In this case, it's just going to show me the 3 that are in the grade 3 group, and that's fine. It just gives you sort of like a heads up of which ones are going to get it. You click Publish, and then what should happen is all your iPads that are in AirWatch, assuming they are connected to the network again, what they should do is they should eventually get that app over to the device side. So in this case, is this the one that I put in the group? I took one of them out. Let me just see. This is iPad number 34, which the name didn't change. Let me check another iPad. I got another one here. I got one that's still installing the initial Google apps that I deployed. Felipe, can you pass me one of the other ones? Thank you. Sorry guys, radio silence. I know that's a faux pas, but I just wanted to see if I can show you. Tell you what, just because it is all very based on the network, I'll watch this, and once the app Epic shows up on one of my iPads, I will bring it back up on the foreground, and then you can see that it has the app. But for now, I'm just going to switch back. So that was the Epic app that we made it as auto-assigned. When I select the app, sorry, can you push it out if you have 50 apps? When I select the app, those links do not show up. So when you select the app, like here, you don't see a sign. Again, you only can select one app. So if I select one app, then I should see the assign button. If I select 2, it goes away. So maybe that might be what's happening here. So because you can only assign them on a 1-by-1 basis. There are some features you can do to make apps auto update. Oh, sorry. Another thing that the reason you might not see that assign thing button appear is, like I said, the first thing you need to do is you got to click the app name and then enable device assignment. If you haven't pressed this big blue button yet, the assign button shouldn't appear. So for example, you can see if I click the name here, it shows enable device assignment, right? And then if I go to, because I haven't pressed it, if I check this app off, oh no, assign's still there. Okay, I don't know. You should see a sign. I thought that might be it, but apparently not. Okay. I'm going to move along, unfortunately, just so I can show you now on demand. So I deployed that Epic app as auto. I'm just going to pick another app here. We'll do Scratch Junior. Why not? and I'm going to enable device assignment. Cool. I never have to do that again. Save and assign. It's now going to take me to the screen here where I can add the groups that I want this app to deploy to. I'm going to click Add Assignment. Same thing I did before. I'm going to hover my mouse over here, click License Code by Smart Group. It then tells me to select my Smart Group. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to choose iPads All. I'm going to say this one goes to all my iPads. But what I'm going to do is I'm not going to, you can see I have 4 devices. So I have 4 iPads in total in my environment. There are 3 in the grade 3 group, so there's one that's kind of a free agent. I have 4 iPads in total. I have to give at least 4 licenses, but again, I want to account for growth, so I'll just round this up to 50. But the assignment type, before I had as auto, which is where it deploys the app automatically to all the iPads, I got to change this to on demand. So what does this mean? I can change it to on demand, and I click save, and I click, there we go. It's all now all iPads on demand, save and publish, and boom. So I've just changed it to on demand, and what that means is it puts the app, as the name suggests, on demand. It's not forcing it on the iPads, but what it's doing is it's giving me the opportunity, if I'm looking at the iPad, to install it. So I'm just going to quickly go back to my iPad here. And if I look over here, that catalog app that we were talking about, right here, this one, that is where the on-demand apps go and the automatic apps go. So any app that's deployed to an iPad will appear in the catalog. On-demand means it did not force it to the iPad, but I can go into catalog, and what I should see is that Scratch Junior should appear there as an option. And as you can see right there, Scratch Junior is right here with the button to install. So I didn't force it on the iPad, but let's say now I want to install it. I can press this install button. It's going to ask me, am I sure? I'm going to click sure. Install. It's going to say processing. And what should happen, and of course nothing goes well on the webinar, is that app should eventually install. Processing. I'm just going to see if I'm actually connected here. Just going to Google Goo. Okay. I am indeed connected. Why aren't you installing? Okay. Let me I'm going to actually go into my list here. So just for now, take my word for it that it's going to that it should install. Is there a number I can contact if I have a question? I felt the general help desk was unsure about my questions. Okay, you got that. So that app is now pushed as on demand, which means it should appear in the catalog. As you saw, it did appear in the catalog. However, I did the install button. It's not showing right away. I'm not sure if it's something going on with our Wi-Fi. I'm just going to switch back over to my devices here and make sure. I can see that some of them haven't been talking to AirWatch in 5 minutes to 23 minutes. So if I take this iPad here and I query it, what that should do is force it to come say hi to AirWatch. So now it shows 678 milliseconds ago, or last seen 3 seconds ago. So you can do that, and it sort of forces your iPads to come say hi to AirWatch, querying it. And I can even do a query for the apps, and that should sort of force the apps coming over. I'm not sure why they're not deploying right away. They've been pretty good so far for the most of the day. Yeah, Book Creator 3 weeks ago. We bought more and I can't find the new ones. If you bought Book Creator from before, as I said, Patricia, it should be under Groups and Settings, Groups, Assignment Groups. And then, like you see here for Monkey Math, 20 licenses. This is my fictitious basically group name that I've created to mimic what you should see. You should see that there is an app there for Book Creator in the group. If you don't see the list like an actual group here, then you want to go to Apps and Books, search your school name in the top right hand corner, and then your Book Creator should be somewhere here in this list. If you don't see it here, try the Sync Assets button as your last ditch effort. It's going to do a refresh. And then let's say you still don't see Book Creator here, then at that point you would have to contact App Requests at tdsb.on.ca to make sure that they actually did indeed process that, and it should show up in your AirWatch environment. Still waiting for the app to deploy. It doesn't look like it's going. Can you pass me one more iPad? I just want to check. I now have 4 iPads in front of me, and none of them are getting the app, which is no bueno. I will continue to monitor that, but unfortunately I'm just going to keep going. You'll have to take my word for it. So that was apps and books. There is one more thing we can show you is how to add the web clips. So unlike an app, a web clip is basically like a shortcut. So if I'm under apps and books and I see here native is the default view where it shows me where I've been working so far over here. If I click web, it'll expand down one more thing, and I'm going to go to web links. So I'm basically going to create a web link here. I'm going to click that, and basically what it's going to do right now, I've already added one here called Pebble Go. So if you look at my iPad here and I switch over, now I don't know which one it is. Oh, here we go. This Pebble Go right here in the top right hand corner, it's not an app, it is actually a web link, and basically when I tap Pebble Go, it should open up in Safari basically, and it'll take me directly to the Pebble Go website. So that's the idea of a web clip, is if you want to put like a shortcut. So something that you may be interested in is creating one for the virtual library. So I'm going to do that now. So again, under apps and books, expand web, go to web links. You go click these the add application button up here at the top, and it will ask you which platform is this for. In this case, we're working with iPad, so we're just going to go to Apple iOS. Going to click continue. And it's going to ask me the name. So what do I want this web clip to appear as? So before you saw it as Pebble Go. Now I'm going to make this one appear as the virtual library. And now it's going to ask me for the URL. So I need the link for the website that I want it to go to. In this case, I've already bookmarked it up here. So you can imagine if I'm looking at my school's virtual library and I want a link to this on my iPads, I can click up here on the URL. Right click, go to copy, switch back over to AirWatch, and right here in the URL, I'm now going to paste that URL in there. So now I have my virtual library URL right here there. I'm going to switch over to images, so now we're going to give it like a nice little friendly icon. If I click right here, this little thing will ask me to go look for an icon. I've already created one on the desktop for the virtual library. You can make it whatever you want. You can open it up in Paint. I have one here called Virtual Library. Nope, that's Pebble Go. Virtual Library. So this is like the icon that it's going to appear as on the iPad side of things. If you want to get a virtual library icon, you can go back to the virtual library, and you can see that there's one right here. So if I want to use that image as my icon, I could right-click and go to Save Image As, and then put this image somewhere on my computer, and then that's basically how I did that when I came over here. So that's I stole that icon from the website. Then I'm going to go to assignments, and let's say I want my virtual library to appear on all my iPads. Same thing, just like adding an app. When I click here, it's going to show me a list of all my groups. In this case, I want to have every iPad to have this web clip. So we're going to do the iPads all group here. It's going to ask me the exclusions. Don't worry about that. Leave it as no. Publish mode, again, on demand or auto. In this case, I'm going to choose auto. I want it to automatically appear on all my iPads. I can expand advanced for some more options down here. One of the options is removable. Do I want to have students have the ability to remove this web clip? I'm going to choose no. I want to leave it on the iPads. I don't want it to be able to be removed. And then, of course, full screen. When you launch it, is it going to basically occupy the entire screen, or do you want to see like the address bar and stuff like that? So, for example, if I go back to Pebble Go here, by launching it, that full screen, you can see I still have the address bar up here at the top, and I have all my controls up here at the top. Full screen would basically get rid of those. So, but I want to keep those controls there. So when I go back here, I'm going to choose full screen as no, and then I'm going to do save and publish. It's going to tell me these are the ones it's going to go to. That's fine. I'm going to click publish. Now, unlike apps, web clips are actually very fast. So as you can tell, I did push that Epic app earlier, and I still actually don't see it on my iPad. Whereas with the web clips, the virtual library, you can see it made it right away. So I think there's some sort of network congestion going on here because I am looking at all my iPads and none of them have that Epic app that I've deployed. And if I go to the catalog, I even tried to press the installed button. I did that for Scratch Junior. And what should happen is it should appear right here on the desktop. Oh, well that worked. So now Scratch Junior is installing. However, they should also still have Epic. So you can see that Scratch Junior, that's the one that I did earlier where I created it as on demand. It now installed. So if I go over back to here and then Maple Grove, Scratch Junior, I click the name next to it and go to assign. I said that goes to on demand for all my iPads. So you just saw me click the install button and that now allowed me to install the app on it. However, for Epic, if I come back here and I do assign, I did say auto. However, let me just see if I did everything right here. So I got all my grade 3 iPads, auto, 3 devices. Yeah, it's all good. I will say that AirWatch is very network reliant, so depending on the network and a whole bunch of other factors, the apps may not appear right away. Depending on where your school is or what your network is like at that time, it can be cooperative. In this case, it is not being cooperative for me, which it's been pretty successful so far on the previous webinars that I've done. So this kind of is a bad example. None of them still have Epic. But that generally covers that feature. There is now the question of how do I remove the apps. If you wish to remove the app, you can work in reverse order. So say for example, I saw that all my iPads have the, what is it? We got Google, let's say they have Google, this one has Google Translate on it right here. If I want to get rid of Google Translate from those iPads, I can go down to the app name here. In this case, there's Google Translate. I'm going to select that. I'm going to go to assign. And I can remove it from all my iPads by selecting that assignment that I created here where it says iPads all automatic. And I can click delete. And then that'll remove it from all my iPads. Sure. And there we go. So again, it could take a little bit if it's not installing the apps. Oh, look at that. It's quick to remove apps. It's just not installing them quick. It still doesn't have Epic on there. I'm going to try one more app just for laughs. Let's see. Let's see if Explain Everything is going to be cooperative. I'm going to choose, first I'm going to click Explain Everything. I'm going to enable device assignment. One more time. Why not? Let's blaze through this. Save. I'm going to add assignment. I'm going to choose my iPads all group. I want all iPads to have Explain Everything. There it is. I'm going to shoot my licenses for the moon of 50. The assignment type is auto, which means automatically push. I'm going to click save. And one more time, save and publish. It's telling me it's going to add it to those 4 iPads, so it should work. And yet, if I go back to my iPad, still nothing. Yikes. Okay. One more way of removing an app is you can actually, if you want to remove it from an individual iPad, you can take, let's say for example, I want to remove Google Keep. I can check this off here, and I can go to Manage Devices. It'll show me the iPads that it's currently applied to. And if I just want to remove it from just this one, I could select that one particular iPad. You can see this one right here. Let's say I want to remove it from number 2. I can check that off and say, you know what, remove it from there. Remove from selected. And what that'll do is it'll leave all the other assignments untouched, so everyone else should still have it. But that particular iPad will be removed. The same button is actually over here for remove. And it should remove it from that iPad. Doesn't look like the status changed here, but I should be able to refresh that and come back in. I'm not sure why it's doing this. So that's the adding of apps and removing of apps. I'm sorry that I could not show you that the apps add automatically. When I had added the Google apps, they all seem to go through fine. So maybe perhaps it's these other apps that I have here. But that's the general idea. You know, you come in, you group your iPads, you add the apps to the groups. If you wish to remove it, you remove the apps from the groups, and then it should remove it from those iPads. So that basically concludes the presentation as far as the live demo goes. If you have any questions, you can reach out to us at the help desk. Our number is 416-395-4357, and we are option 5. There is some documentation on serviceit.tdsb.on.ca/MDM. That is our Everything AirWatch page. It contains all the documentation. It has the link to this webinar here. So you'll see that when you go there, actually, why don't I just open it up? When you go there, you'll see that there is a page for documentation. There is right here under the training materials. There's the frequently asked questions, which is FAQ. And then there's the app request form. So this is how you actually submit your apps. So you submit the app request form, and then they will appear into AirWatch once Teaching and Learning has vetted and approved it. And if you want to go take a look at these webinars or previous ones, click this link. I wouldn't recommend the previous ones because the console has actually now changed, so it is a new look and feel. But that's essentially what you would do, is you would click here, and it'll take you to our YouTube channel where you can then watch all of our previous videos here. That's that. And again, feel free to contact us anytime. And with that, are there any questions? I'm not sure if anyone's still lingering here. If you guys have any questions now, I can actually go into detail about them. So if you want to see something again, or maybe it wasn't clear, maybe you have this one question that's been really pressing you, feel free to ask it, and I will go through it in detail now. So I'll give you a few seconds to mull that over. Thank you, Mr. Chan. Sorry I couldn't actually, show you the actual deployment of the app. I'm really upset at that because it's been so good in all the previous ones. But I promise you that you shouldn't have the same problem I have here with the app. Thank you, guys. I hope this is a good starting point for it, for AirWatch. I appreciate you guys taking time out of your day to come watch this. It really helps us out, and we are going to keep improving these. We're going to be doing this, I think, I'm not sure if it's every 2 weeks, every month. Our next intention is to actually chunk this thing down. Instead of making this like this hour-long webinar, we want to kind of condense these into individual videos. So, how to add an app, how to do this, how to do that, right? That's our kind of our future game plan. We have been a little bit inundated at the client service desk with school opening, and we've some other issues regarding that. But as soon as things free up, I'm hoping over the Christmas time, we'll be able to actually make some more digestible videos for you guys, because we find that this method of demonstrating, as you can see with the software on the screen, and it really is a little bit more helpful and more user friendly. So thank you guys, and of course I think you're going to get a feedback form. Feel free to be as harsh as you want. It really helps us out when it comes to the future. I do see Mr. Chan, is the Google Drive working? It seems to not load up. So I happen to have Google Drive here on my app, so I'm going to launch it here, and I've never signed in before, so let's do this right now. Here we go, safe place to store files. Let me click sign in the bottom left hand corner. It should take me to, okay, well, sign in. In this case, I'll be using my TDSB email address. Okay, I'm going to click next. It should redirect me to AW, because that's where we actually do the sign-in. So I'm pretty sure at this point it doesn't matter if I type in my password and you guys can see it, but because you guys already know. But I'm just going to take away from the screen there and type in my password just in case. Okay, so I just typed in my password, and I'm going to click Login. I didn't type in my password correctly. Bear with me 1 second. I don't know why I made my password so long. It is, yeah, it's just too long. All right, there we go. So login. Once AW authenticates, shows here. Boom. Well, so what do you see? Mine seems to be processing, which it has been for days. Huh. So if you click up here in the top left-hand corner, you should be able to see all the different accounts down here below that are added in. Maybe you have multiple accounts in there. If you just want to try maybe removing the profile in there. So if you click manage, it'll give you the option to remove it. Actually, let me, I'm going to get Felipe to sign in so that we can have 2 accounts on here. Let me just toggle the screen away. So this way we'll have 2 accounts showing in there. And I just want to show you that you can toggle between the 2. And you should be able to remove one, and, you know, if one of them's showing processing, maybe toggle to another profile in there, and then remove the one that's stuck on processing. I mean, if I can't really reproduce it on my end, it's going to be hard to guide you through it to see what I've done here. Didn't work for you? So what are you doing? You got typing it in there, accounts.google.com. Okay. Are there any other questions? Feel free to ask them. This is time. Open floor. We'll go through everything and anything with you guys. Except for how to get apps to appear on the iPads, because that is still not showing up. That's crazy. It's not letting you sign in? Oh. It's from deployment screen that it was originally supposed to be loaded up. It's from the deployment screen and that it was originally supposed to.
So it's in the catalog. It's probably the catalog.
Oh, are you talking about the catalog? Let me just quickly rejoin this to the screen. So Felipe is having some problems logging in there. Okay, so are you saying that you went to the catalog and then you tried to install Google Drive? Is that what the problem is? Okay, thank you, Tina. Thanks for coming out. I appreciate it. Yeah, if you guys have to go now, please, by all means. VMware AirWatch screen. I'm confused. So, where?
So in there,
Yeah.
if it's still installing, it's gonna have a processing. It's gonna say processing.
I don't think that's what he means. I'm just gonna disconnect. Is that yours? No, it's mine.
That's the VMware AirWatch. That's the only thing, right? It says VMware AirWatch.
I think so when you launch the agent app, it says VMware AirWatch like that, and then you might get some notifications that come up. You don't need to. So you're trying. All the other apps are loaded up except that one, except for the agent app, like this guy, this blue shield. Because yeah, the blue shield again. The agent app is just used for checking in and checking out. So when I type in my employee number and password here, it'll unlock all the features. Here's a little trick. I'm going to launch up a bunch of apps here because I want to demonstrate something. If you're ever having a particular issue with an app, one thing you can do to force close it is if you double tap the home button really quickly. So if I double tap, like tap on the home button. Oh, well, that's a bad example. That came up there. Sure. If I tap the home button like that, what it'll do is it'll cascade all my apps into these little windows. This, of course, only works on a certain version of iOS. If you have a new iPad, it may be running 11. So yeah, in the example of Google Drive, let's say Google Drive is being a pain. In version 11.0.3, which is the newest version of iOS, you can still do the same behavior. You double tap the home button, and instead of the way that it looks on my screen here, it's going to appear in, I think, 4 squares, all the different apps that are open. But from this screen, you can actually force close the app. So similar to like on a Windows computer, when I minimize this window here, that's essentially what you're doing when you press the home button on your iPad. It doesn't actually close the app. It just it puts it in the background. So you can imagine if I have AirWatch open, or sorry, if I have Chrome open and I press the minimize button. Oh, hey, Mr. Chandler, you subscribed. Thank you. Let's get rid of that. If you minimize the window like that, same thing happens in on the iPads. So if I launch an app like let's say Google Drive, and I press the home button, it's still running. It's still running in the background. So to actually force close an app, you can double tap the home button, cascades it into windows like this, and you swipe the app up towards the sky. And this is actually now force closing the app. It's freeing it from memory. It's no longer running. So if you're ever having problems with an app, I find that sometimes has a good effect, is to actually close it. So you double tap and swipe it up. And now when I go back in, it's like relaunching it from vanilla. I haven't signed in this one. Where is it? Which one?
So it's the catalog. That's where
S-
the process.
So you're saying that catalog is stuck on processing. So yeah, that's sort of the same thing that happened for me on the webinar. Let's go back to this iPad here. If I launch the catalog here, which shows me all the apps that I've set as on demand, and actually even the ones that are on auto, you can see Scratch Junior is showing as processing. Is that what you're referring to? But instead for Google Drive, because if that's the case, you can see here Scratch Junior is installed. But if I go back to the catalog, it shows it's processing. Maybe refresh it. It's still, yeah. The catalog is interesting. I'm gonna press install for Epic. Huh? I don't think that was deployed properly. Oh, you know what? Let's try to explain everything. So I've clicked install for explain everything, and now it says processing, and you can see it's still it's now actually installing. Maybe actually you have to maybe if you close the tab, like if I start closing all these, oops, get out of here, all these open windows, and like that. So now Safari has nothing open. If I go back into the catalog, hopefully, Scratch Junior is still showing processing. I think it's just a matter of it not checking into AirWatch. So if I go and look at what my iPad name is, settings, and about, and this is iPad number 34, which didn't actually rename. I can go back to my AirWatch environment over here. Looks like I got logged out. Which one is this? This is DMQ K5G YRF 183, and I hit enter there. So that's actually my iPad 3, even though it says 34 in here. I'm just going to rename it to iPad 3 again. So if I click the iPad itself, it shows me in details view. I can go up here to query, which should force it to communicate with AirWatch. So now it says last seen like 1 second ago. I can even do more actions and query the apps. Oh, you got it? Oh, I see. Okay. Awesome. Oh, you got it. Cool. Oh, thank you. You're awesome. Or when he said amazing. Oh, okay. So now that I've done that, I should be able to go back in the catalog and that processing. Yeah, see now processing is showing installed. So by actually forcing it to query on AirWatch here, if I do like a more actions and apps, again a lot of the stuff with AirWatch is all just based on the network. So it just sometimes it just takes time because these iPads are actually notorious for turning off their Wi-Fi and not communicating in the background. So do go to sleep often. So you'll find 90% of the time a lot of things is just a matter of waiting. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if later on today I go back and look at these iPads and that Epic app eventually makes its way down because it still hasn't on any of these iPads. So that is important to note. I don't know if anyone's still there, but if you have any other questions, feel free. I'm going to give you guys maybe a few more minutes, and then we'll wrap this thing up, and you guys can go on your merry way if you're still here. Still three people? Oh, 3 people, so we probably Mr. Chan, you, and then...
No, I've already minus me and Kevin.
Oh, okay. All right, well, I don't imagine there's much left at this point. So if you guys have any further questions, please, again, feel free to call us here at the client service desk, 416-395-4357, option 5. If you want to speak to an AirWatch specialist, just tell the person who answers the phone, I would like to speak to an AirWatch specialist. What they can do is, if I or myself or any one of the other AirWatch specialists is available, they'll take down your contact information and reach out to you, and that way we can be, spend a little bit more time going over the details, and it'll be a little bit more clear that way. So just feel free to do that. Give them a phone number they can reach you at, a time that works for you. We'll reach out and we can go ahead and answer any and all of these questions. We'll remote in your computer. We'll take a look at your environment and see if we can help you out with that. So, but yeah, feel free to contact us. Thank you very much for attending the webinar. I'm going to wrap this up. It's getting a little bit late in the day. Thank you for coming out, and have a good evening or afternoon. Bye.